Chapter 640. This place, unlike the Thanos underground prison, is not an appropriate location for a protection mechanism that can only be opened by blood relatives. So, our options are quite straightforward. I have studied a bit to avoid the frustration of missing the way like before, even when it's right in front of us. With a smile, Kishir began to cast his spell. A dazzlingly bright light burst forth, accompanied by golden magic power emanating from Kishir's hand, filling the space before them. The light, akin to the wind but distinct, illuminated the area before slowly fading away. The dead end they faced was no longer blocked. As if there had never been a wall there, a clear passage opened before them. What exactly did you do? I combined a simple yet effective spell with the ancient and useful artifact, the Mirror of Truth, which even I can use. Kishir showed a small wand mirror he held in his hand. It's the magic tool he acquired to investigate the relic sent by Prince Ajane. The magic power wrapped around the mirror seemed somewhat diminished compared to when he first received it from Mrs. Justin, but it didn't appear to have lost all its power. Bringing useful tools like this is essential when coming to such a place. The man, adept at concealing his thorough preparedness behind a smile, winked and moved forward. I prepared this because I thought there was a high probability that there was at least one mechanism like this hidden there. It's fortunate we needed it. But you used too much power. Is the vessel alright? Nathan Zuckerman expressed concern. If it were before, I would definitely need to rest for a few days after this. I can endure much more these days. Haven't you noticed the increasing stability of my vessel? That is true. Indeed, Kishir looked almost unscathed. He was sweating slightly on his forehead, but did not seem as drained as he had been after using in underground of the cavalry headquarters. Either, having observed Kishir's increasing frequency of using power, felt strange upon hearing this confirmation. The gap between suspicion and certainty was both close and far. The thought that his visible strength was not only due to skill development but also increased stability of his vessel brought back old memories. Kishir Lahore had always yearned to unleash the full extent of his power, striving tirelessly to achieve his goals even in impossible situations. How brilliantly radiant and free he had looked, carving a massive sword mark on the wall with a cracked wooden sword. His current state was a testament of those efforts. Nathan Zuckerman too seemed to share this sentiment, unable to take his eyes off his lord who stood proudly on the ground. Knowing the times when Kishir had been in such a dire state that he contemplated death, Zuckerman could somewhat guess how he felt about the situation. Since discovering that the power to stabilize the cracked vessel originated from my own abilities, I have become much stronger. It's all thanks to my assistant. So, don't worry about me anymore, Nathan. Wait, why is my name coming up here? Yudhir paused, furrowing his brows. While tending to Emperor Kelusa, he realized that the power protecting the cracked vessel didn't solely come from awakening itself, but rather it required the addition of Kishir's power. However, this was not due to Yudhir's merit. He was about to speak, but Nathan Zuckerman was quicker to open his mouth. I understand, and congratulations on achieving yet another higher realm. Surprisingly, this knight readily agreed with his lord's nonsensical statement. Consequently, Yudhir completely missed the chance to assert that it wasn't thanks to him. Without expressing unnecessary worry, but rather extending congratulations, he was indefinitely similar to his lord in that regard. Even if Kishir reassured him that there was no need for concern, someone as diligent as Nathan Zuckerman wouldn't easily set aside his worries. However, after the congratulations, the knight's demeanor became noticeably more relaxed. But as they advanced along the newly revealed path and reached the largest room so far, the three could no longer engage in conversation. This is... Kishir, rubbing his chin and tilting his head, stood beside Yudhir, who was frowning and scanning the surroundings with only his eyes. If Helen had been here, she would have really appreciated this intentionally arranged setup. The vast room was filled with what seemed to be hundreds of monster bones. However, their arrangement was somewhat peculiar. Laid out in orderly fashion, each bone placed as if with specific intent, without touching one another. The scene was somewhat chilling. Why did the first Duke of Tane left the remains in such a manner after his research was completed? Either, what does the flow of magic power look like now? Since the wall concealing this place was breached, it almost disappeared. It seems the magic power I saw originated from that magic. So, the place itself wasn't magically altered. Muttering to himself, Kishi looked around and then gave an order. Since the area is open on all sides, there is no need to stick together. Let's spread out and check for anything unusual. Look for any traces of first Duke of Tane might have left. Understood. The three dispersed, walking among the bones, searching for anything amiss. Either maintaining the brilliance of his eye of magic, floated several flames in the air to illuminate the area. Up close, it's even more bizarre to think there was a reason to arrange monster bones like this. To the faint-hearted, the sight upon entering could have been overwhelming, enough to cause a fainting spell. However, for Yudhar, who was accustomed to slaying monsters and piling up even more corpses, it was merely a sight unpleasant and strange place, nothing more, nothing less. As if taking a stroll, Yudhar walked around, examining the bones laid out below. Some are fairly intact, while others are almost entirely eroded. Were the old monsters softer than the ones appearing now? Monster corpses and bones decay very slowly due to their sturdiness, which is why weapons made from monster byproducts are so popular. But the bones here varied greatly in condition. Some were well preserved enough to still have dried flesh clinging to them, while others were so decayed that only rotten soil and a few fragments suggested that something had once lain there. If it weren't for their precise, evenly spaced arrangement, reminiscent of pieces in such a well-ordered strategy game, it would have been difficult to even guess what had been there. As he continued to walk, looking down, Yudhar suddenly realized something. There seems to be a pattern between the spots where corpses had almost completely decayed and those where they haven't. After the almost unrecognizable, severely decayed corpses, there were invariably bodies of similar size in a more average state. Following the relatively intact corpses were again those barely distinguishable as bodies. It seemed that differences in sizes were also considered to avoid confusion with the other nearby bodies. At first, he thought it might be the difference between a corpse that had been studied by the first Duke of Tane and a corpse that had not. But something about the explanation nagged at the back of his mind. Pondering what it could be, Yudhar stopped in front of a corpse that, though heavily decayed, still had a considerable amount of bone left. This is good. It should be easy to distinguish it from the one next to it. He altered his gaze between two corpses of nearly the same size. Then, after a moment, he furrowed his brows and pressed his lips tightly together. What is this? Careful not to disturb the bones, he knelt down on one knee. Upon closer inspection, his earlier suspicion became clearer. This isn't a monster's corpse, is it? He stood up and started walking around more swiftly than before, searching for the overly decayed corpses with more traces left. After finding a few more, he felt more certain that his theory might be correct. Here, not only were there monster corpses, but also a considerable mix of other animal remains. What the fuck was the first Duke of Tane doing? I initially thought it might be like a chess game where he probably talks about this is black piece, this is white piece, and the ones which are preserved kind of reflects one type of piece and the other one is a different color. Then I thought if there are hundreds of monsters, probably it's a message. You can write whatever it is in order and the other one is in this, and it is meant to be discovered like years later, not when it is actually there. So I was thinking that, but what the hell is this? What is he up to? What was he up to? I want to know.